Hi, grade 10s. I hope you recognize the list that's up on your screen. It's one of the documents we use in term 1 when we started with some practicals in Microsoft Word, and this list you were supposed to arrange them in your what is applicable or what is your top 5 priorities. What we're going to do for this lesson is we're going to add numbers to the list or bullets to the list. We actually have a numbered or bulleted list, which is things you're going to have to use quite often. Okay, we're going to work on the home tab, which is quite simple. It's the one we are already on. Okay, and the information that we want to then add numbers or add bulleted lists to, we have to highlight. So we're going to highlight the whole list of priorities that are on the screen. Okay, and your bulleted or numbered list you're going to find in your paragraph group. We're going to start with bulleted list. So your bulleted list is the ones that have these little blocks on it. Okay, and if you hover over it, you'll see it will give you options to create a bulleted list, and if you click the arrow to change the look of those bullets. If you just click on it, it will give you a very ordinary dotted bullet list. If you want to change that, you need to click on the arrow and it will give you the whole library of possibles that you could use as bullets. And if you don't want any of these, you can go to the right at the bottom of your drop-down menu is define new bullet. And if you click on that or you choose that option, it's going to give you some ideas. Things you can work with. Okay, so you can choose, if you click on symbol, you can choose which symbol you would like then to have as a bullet. You can use diamonds. These are your very ordinary symbols. You can choose 4-leaf clover or a forte sign. Okay, or you can change the font. So most of you know about webdings and wingdings. So we can go to, say we choose wingdings too. There's all kinds of signs that we could use, like a cross or a tick. So we choose a cross and we click OK. It gives you a preview, right? And we can then use that then as our bullet, as our bullets for our list. Or as well, you could use a picture, which does get a little bit more complicated because it's something you need to find on your computer, and it could be bigger, it could be small. And then we could also use a specific font, like I mentioned. Okay, so those are some of the things that we can do when it comes to adding a bullet list. I'm going to stick with the cross that we just selected and keep that sort of simple. Okay, but now you'll see that this list, the heading, my priorities list, is right next to the margin, but there's an indent where we start the list. It's fine like that, but if you don't want it like that, if you prefer it to be all aligned down the left-hand side, again, you can select all the information, and on your same paragraph over here, okay, you're looking for these little arrows, one to the left, one to the right. We are looking to increase the indent because there's an indent here. Okay, there's that little gap. So we're looking to decrease the indent, and if we decrease the indent, it will then make our bullet points in line with our heading. If you want to increase it, we can then go to the right hand side to increase the indent, and you can do it more than once if you like. Let's just keep it in line with our heading for now. Alright, so that's how to add bullets. If we don't want to add bullets, we can use numbers. The numbers is right next to it. Okay, if you choose numbers, it's going to give you your very ordinary 1 to 18 because it's 18. So number 1 to number 18. Again, if we want other options, we click on the arrow and it will give us a couple of options. So number 1, 2, and 3 with a full stop next to it, 1, 2, and 3 with brackets. We can use Roman numerals, capital letters from the alphabet, small letters from the alphabet, and so forth. And we can choose whichever you prefer. Again, you can choose to go set numbering, or sorry, define new new format if you don't like any of those. And you can say, I wanted to go 1, 2, 3, and it will use the words instead of numbers. So it gives you quite a lot of options to choose from. Let's go back there. Let's see, what else does it give us? We can choose first, second, or third. So there's a couple of options that you can choose: first, second, third, 01, 02, 03 instead of just 1, 2, 3. We'll just keep it normal. Let's go ABC, and I'll show you what happens. All right, you can also choose the font. So I've got quite a few fonts on my computer. And let's say I'm going to choose There was one I wanted to show you guys. It's also only going to work with fonts that use numbers. So I'm going to choose Marvel, and let's see if Marvel is actually going to give us anything, because not all fonts have certain letters or numbers. Okay, so this is one I did earlier. So define new number format, ABC, and I use the font called that one over there. And then once you select it, it then picks your numbered list, or your alphabetical list in this case. It puts those in a specific font that is different to everything else. Okay, and again, if we want to then increase or include that indent, we can increase the indent, or we can go back. Okay, this one over here is also adding numbers, but it's when we've got subsections. So if your heading is like my list of priorities, and your first point was be more grateful, and then you had steps of how you were going to be more grateful. So for example, think of all the blessings that I have. Think of all the people who are less fortunate than what I am. For example, okay, so these 2 points fall under that point. Then we would use these lists. Okay, again, we could choose how it would fit. So we would choose the format that we want to use. So let's say we want that format. So you can see there my list of priorities. Number 1, be more grateful, A or B under number 1. Then we can have number 2, A or B, etc., etc. So that sort of thing. We'll use that second one, which is called a multi-level list. Okay, so it's not just ordinary 1, 2, 3. There's various levels to that list that you are creating. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you is about spacing between your numbers list or your bulleted list. So how they are your bullets. Okay, so when it comes to spacing, we still use the paragraph group. It's this little arrow right at the corner. So none of the other sort of icons, excuse me. It's the little arrow in the right hand corner right at the bottom, okay, which is your settings, which you've worked on before. And we're looking for spacing, and we're looking for spacing after. Okay, so at the moment, spacing after is 6 point, which is default. Ooh, excuse me. But what you could do is you could make it smaller. Okay, so if we said we want no spacing between them, bring them closer. It's not always very big differences, are very noticeable, depending on what you do, of course. So let's change that again. We're looking for spacing. If we made that spacing 10, okay, you'll notice it's not changing, and I'll show you why. The reason nothing is changing is because I've got this box checks. Don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. So because all of them are in the same style, it's not going to do anything because I've selected that box. But if I uncheck that box, then you'll see it'll start changing. Okay, so that's about 10-point space. If I don't want a 10-point space, and maybe I want a 4-point space, then you'll see. Okay, so if you do want to create some space between each point, and it's not making any difference once you change the spacing down in indent and spacing, then moving to spacing, we always change the one after, because it's after every line I want such a size spacing. Make sure that you haven't checked this box, because if you have checked that box, it's only going to create space between this whole list, and a paragraph that is different. Okay, so just be careful of what you're doing there. All right, so that's how to add numbered lists or bulleted lists to your work.